everybody, this is Frédéric Gonzalo with you. Welcome to this webinar where we're going to be looking at 5 marketing trends that should be important to the online world, and more specifically for travel and hospitality for coming month and the year 2016. So if you're wondering, just a few words about who I am. My name is Frédéric Gonzalo. I have been working for a little over 20 years now in the sales and marketing communications sphere, and almost always in the travel and tourism world. So ski resorts, hotels, destinations, various levels as a consultant for the past 3 years, and before that in different companies at a local here in the province of Quebec, national across the country when I was working for 7 years at Via Rail Canada, and international levels. I've been doing conference speaking in North America and Europe, and I worked at various Club Meds as well. Now, the interesting thing is that I've always been curious and passionate about new technologies, and not just, I guess, from a geek standpoint to know, what's basically how it's done behind the programming side of things. It's more, how does it translate for a better customer experience and how we can use it from a marketing standpoint. So I've always been interested, and I guess from the 90s up until today, to figure out from the web to social media and mobile nowadays, how it can help and transform the way we have a customer experience and how we have a better marketing in that sense. So I'm a speaker, author, and consultant. You can check out my website, frederickgonzalo.com, with a lot more information about myself. But you're not here for this today. We are here to discuss some of the 5 trends to look for in 2016. So here they are. We'll be discussing social media from an advertising standpoint. I think the free ride is pretty much over nowadays if we want to perform well in terms of social media. It needs to be done with a little bit of investment. Trend number 2, mobile. In fact, it's not a trend. Mobile is now a way of life, but we will be looking at the impact it has in our everyday lives and how we need to look at it from a travel marketing standpoint. The third trend will be content shock, and I'll be getting back to this. It's a bit complex, but I think you'll understand that it's a challenge nowadays in how we address content marketing when there's so much going on. And because of that, and you'll see that the interesting thing is our trends from 1 to 5 really segue into one another. Trend number 4 will be video marketing, and finally we'll be looking at remarketing. And if you're wondering what that is, I'll be explaining that to you in a few moments. So, without further ado, the first trend is social media advertising. Now, we need to understand sort of how consumers are evolving and how much time we're spending on various media. I find this graph very interesting. Mary Meeker has been sharing her report for the past few years. It comes out at the beginning of the year, and when it came out early in 2015, based on data for the year 2014 in the USA, it was interesting to see the evolution, where basically if you're looking at radio, TV, and internet, so the middle blocks there, you're seeing that we've pretty much reached a certain balance or status quo where advertisers spend as much money in the media where people are spending time. So it seems to make sense. From radio, TV, and internet, we have reached par. And internet has evolved in the past couple of years. There used to be a gap there, but now it's pretty much 23-24%. Interesting to see. However, I bring your attention to the extremes of this graph, where you're seeing, for example, in print, that despite the fact that we're only spending 4% of our time on print, and that's newspapers, magazines, and anything printed material, still there's a disproportionate amount of advertising that takes place there. 18% of ad spend actually goes to those media, and this is, it just doesn't make any sense. We're seeing obviously that marketers and advertising in general, we're going to be spending less because obviously it's where there's less time being spent. At the other end of the spectrum, and this will be interesting for 2016, is I think we're going to be seeing more and more efforts and initiatives going down the mobile path, because we're seeing that despite the fact that there's 24% of our time spent on those platforms, only 10% only 8% of the spend is taking place on mobile. Thus, when we're going to talk about social media advertising, when we're talking about Facebook, for example, well, we need to know that 83% of time spent on Facebook is via mobile. The mobile app on your smartphone or the tablet. Same thing on YouTube. 45% of the time spent on YouTube comes from mobile. Um, for Twitter, it's over 80%. Pinterest, over 80%. So, in other words, if we're trying to reach the people on mobile, you can go through a classic, you know, banner, but more and more we're going to see in 2016 that that's less efficient, especially with iOS 9, with the ad blocks applications that are out there. So we're going to try, and we're going to see more and more brands spending money through social media, because that's one of the ways they can reach the mobile consumer. So this is why, even though in trend number 2 we're going to talk about the importance of mobile, I was bringing up this slide to your attention here, because this is sort of the backbone of why we're going to see more advertising on social media. Now, the possibilities are becoming incredibly varied. When you think back only 2 or 3 years ago on Facebook, it was essentially you could either buy an ad to get more fans to your page or boost a specific post. But the latest we could see, we had 10 different variations or campaigns we could conduct. There's an 11th and a 12th that are being progressively rolled out this fall. So by 2016, you can expect maybe 12, 13, 14 different campaigns that you can conduct, whether it's to send people to a website, whether it's remarketing, whether it's getting more video views. If you have a mobile app, you want to get more engagement with it. So a lot of possibilities where Facebook is becoming a huge player in terms of social media effectiveness in getting your message across to the right people at the right time, instead of basically just taking an ad in the newspaper and not necessarily having the ROI you would be hoping for. Also interesting to see, Instagram launched ads about a year ago. It was very selective. Not many people had access to it. And now it's becoming basically mainstream since summer of 2015. And in the fall now we're seeing, for example, this Fido ad, and we're seeing lots more brands are going to be accessing Instagram ads. So it'll be interesting, specifically now that we know that Instagram is a part of Facebook. There's over 400 million active users on Instagram. So great to reach specific demographics, especially in the travel field, where a lot of people moving with their smartphones, taking pictures, sharing on Instagram. So it might be a great way to reach some people there and get your message across. Same thing with Pinterest. Pinterest is huge, specifically with women. More than 80% of users are women. And we're seeing that it brings a lot of traffic, referral traffic to websites. So, for example, here you have Julie's Outdoor Supply, who's promoting a pin on a specific board where people might be talking about adventure travel or camping gear. So this would be a great way in the travel sphere as well to reach out to people who are active on Pinterest and get your message across. Twitter, of course, has had some ads for a while, but it's also becoming more savvy and giving us options on the kind of advertising we can do. Just in this visual here, you're seeing 3 different options. You see with JetBlue here, with essentially you're promoting a pin, not a pin, but rather a tweet, so it goes directly into the news feed. You can have such as Levi's here on the right, when you want to promote your account so that more people follow it, or during an event, for example, if there's a meeting, an incentive congress taking place in your city or a destination, where you could basically promote a hashtag in particular, which would feature here in the trends section of Twitter. So they're all different possibilities. There's a lot more, of course, but I think we're going to see a lot of action on this field. And we're also starting to see cross-platform. And this is where it's becoming interesting. As I mentioned a minute ago, Instagram was purchased by Facebook back in 2012. So now we're starting to see that you can actually, from Facebook, push an ad to an Instagram account, or even if you're not, or you don't have an Instagram account, you could actually push an ad within a certain stream or news feed within Instagram. So we're going to start seeing these possibilities in 2016. It'll be interesting to see if, since Facebook acquired WhatsApp last year, if we're going to start seeing advertising there as well. We know that WhatsApp, if you're not familiar with it, is huge in Europe, in North America, and Asia as well, with over 800 million active users on a monthly basis. So it'll be interesting to see if advertising goes to WhatsApp, since Facebook acquired, just like they did with Instagram. The second trend, and again, it's not necessarily a trend, but it's the fact that mobile will become left, right, and center part of the focus in 2016 if it's not already for you. Just look at some of the stats here. Where here in Canada, we're looking at 36 million people in the country, and essentially the internet penetration at 93%, and you're seeing mobile at 81%. So there's a lot of mobile connections and mobile social accounts virtually, and if you take away the youth or the above 80 years old, basically you're saying 80 to 90% penetration for internet and mobile in general. Same when we're looking at the activity on laptops and desktops. We're seeing that a year-over-year stats, and these statistics were back in February 2015 by the We Are Social firm. So you're seeing that desktop is reducing year-over-year. We're spending less time on our desktops. However, we're increasingly spending time on our mobile phones, a 41% increase year-over-year, and tablet 33% increase. So it's a lot of time and more time being spent on tablets and smartphones. So that's the key takeaway from this. So what this means is it's no longer a luxury to have a website that is mobile optimized. Nowadays, a website needs to be thought of and designed for all kinds of devices, what we call responsive web design. So whether someone is accessing your website from a desktop, a laptop, a tablet, or a smartphone, it should be 100% responsive. It should be accessible. The information you do not need to pinch. Everything is designed so that the buttons and the fonts are big enough so that you don't have to fill in forms, for example, that are super small and they're difficult to access. Take into consideration that in 2015, essentially, we reached a tipping point where more than 50% of the traffic with regards to travel comes from mobile platforms. And in 2015, 25% of revenues in North America were estimated in the travel world that they were coming from a mobile device, that is a smartphone or a tablet. So 1 out of every $4, 1 out of every 2 mobile users is actually not necessarily mobile users, but internet users coming from mobile. So if you do not have a mobile oriented website, you're pissing off basically 1 out of every 2 users, and you might be losing 1 out of $4 of potential dollars that are out there. In fact, you see this quote from Brian Bolin, the VP of Ad Tech at Facebook, saying that mobile is changing people and it's changing businesses. It's very easy to see if you have family parties recently, you have nephews, kids at home. Just our everyday lives are just not the same now. I think 65% of households in Canada nowadays have at least 3 electronic devices that is connected to Wi-Fi. And that's on average, 65% of households have 3 or more. So you're seeing that it's no longer a luxury or a trend. It truly has become part of the fabric. So bear this into consideration. And we should be seeing also another aspect, which is the arrival of beacons. In the US, Starbucks and McDonald's have been doing this, and we're seeing this in Canada as well. Different retailers are trying it, where essentially you have this device, which is called a beacon. So whenever someone arrives into your a mall, for example, or your office, there would be a pop-up. You could push a message to say, hey, swing by the desk of such and such, or swing by or the brewery, or swing by, and you can have a promotion right now. So these are things that are happening. It's not science fiction. We should be seeing more of this in 2016, just like the Internet of Things makes it that we can reach people directly on their Apple Watch or smart watch. This has been going on for a while, of course, but we should expect to see a bit more in 2016. One final example I want to give you when it comes to mobile, we're basically seeing travel agencies such as this one here in Ukraine, Pocket Tour, I believe they're called, where they're using Viber, which is a social network that's big in Europe. It's got over 400 million active users. They're using basically the mobile platform to conduct business. So people search, book, and pay directly through this device. So this is a travel agency that is actually a physical travel agency, but they decided to use this tool to bring in some business. Of course, online travel agencies such as Booking.com, Priceline, and others are also very strong on mobile, as we know. But if you have a physical address and you have a travel agency, then these are all tools that we need to understand and embrace because they can bring in some business. Before we move on to the next trend, I just wanted to flag this online training that I've developed. It's on the fundamentals of digital marketing. It's available on my website at frederickgonzalo.com. There are 8 sessions. You can either purchase them individually or the whole thing. The price has been discounted to $447, and there's a launch offer that is ongoing right now until the end of October, where you can shave off another 25% of that price by using the promo code Gonzo25. So take a look at the course outline. Lots of material. It's more than 8 hours of basically of material that you can view at your own pace. You have 6 months to view all the content. So check it out on frederickgonzalo.com for more details. All right, let's continue with trend number 3, content shock. This is Bob. Meet Bob. He's a goldfish. So why is there a goldfish in this presentation? Well, you need to know that our attention span is really going down. And the reason I'm bringing this goldfish up is because there was a university in the US that did a study back in the year 2000, and they found that the average attention span of an American was about 12 seconds back then. Now, the interesting thing is that the attention span of a goldfish is 9 seconds. So flash forward to the year 2012, that same university conducted the study once again, and they found that the average American attention span had gone down to 8 seconds. That is 4 seconds less than it was 12 years before, but actually 1 second less that of a goldfish. Now, I have no idea how you measure the attention span of a goldfish, but the basics here, or the morale, is to say that we're interrupted all the time. It's a phone call coming in, someone coming into your office, it's a baby cry, it's anything happening, or you're maybe dozing off into the moon. So we need to be consistently pushing the right buttons and making sure people have our attention. That is not an easy task. Now, why am I bringing this up? It's because we are bombarded left, right, and center. So we need to know that this content shock is going to keep on continuing, and we need to bear this into consideration in our marketing in general and how we're going to try to reach our people, reach our targets. Just this graph here is showing that on Facebook, we are reaching less and less people naturally with our publications. Whenever we publish something on Facebook, the average page now reaches about maybe 4 or 5% of its base because of the EdgeRank algorithm within Facebook. So what I'm basically saying is, if you have 1,000 fans on your page and you're publishing something today, you are reaching average of maybe 40 or 50 people will get the post in their newsfeed. That is, about 950 people will never see it in their newsfeed. The filter blocks it off. So you need to, unless you have, of course, a very dynamic approach with community management of, maybe answering questions or posting surveys or putting great pictures and videos, and this is where it becomes important to have a great approach. Nevertheless, it's difficult because you're seeing, for example, here on YouTube, it used to be 2 years ago we were saying, well, there's 48 hours of content uploaded every minute. Then it was 72 hours. Then it was 100. Now we're saying that it's 300 hours of video content uploaded every minute on YouTube. So sure, there's over 1 billion active users on that platform, but there's so much content out there that how can you ensure that the right content reaches the target audience when you want it to? So it's not an easy task. you're seeing basically a similar curve here, where this is the digital data explosion. Whenever you hear the expression big data, this is what it means. So I'm not going to go into the math side of what a zettabyte is, but just so you know, it is estimated that basically all the data that was created since the beginning of mankind all the way to 2009 is basically the equivalent of what was created between 2009 and 2011. So just look at between 2011 and 2013, we doubled that. And between 2013 to 2015, we doubled that again. So it's just exploding. So it's making it more and more difficult for us to reach the right people. I'm showing here a visual in French, but you'll get the gist anyway. La Presse, which is the biggest French-speaking newspaper in North America here in Montreal, they basically decided that starting in January 2016, they will no longer print from Monday to Friday, and they will only have their tablet edition, and they will print only on Saturday because that's the very popular edition. But they've been having this very popular tablet edition, and Toronto Star just launched it in September 2015, which is an equivalent platform. So they're basically betting that, you know, it's no longer going to be about paper. It's the crowd is going mobile, and we need to the content reaches the people more easily with videos and photos and in a more less conventional way through a tablet technology. So are they right? Are they wrong? Time will tell. But this is just another example of what content shock means in this world. The fourth trend that I wanted to share with you is video marketing. We know, and this is based on a Google travel research at the end of 2014, that 35% of travelers, 1 out of every 3 leisure travelers essentially, had engaged with a travel-related video activity in the past 6 months. And it was even more so for business travelers, 1 out of every 2, or 56%. What's a travel-related video? It might be an ad from Booking.com or TripAdvisor. It could be a destination video that makes you just dream of going to Caribbean or going to New York City. Or it could be a user-generated content about, you know, my great trip to Niagara Falls, or what I enjoyed doing in Paris last weekend. So just the fact of watching this content has an impact. And there was a research made very recently by Rocket Fuel, which is a programmatic marketing platform provider in the US, and they looked at data, and interestingly enough, they saw that the mere fact of being exposed to a tourism display or video ad what meant that they were 6 times more likely to book a hotel in that destination city. But if you actually watched the video to completion, if you watched the whole thing, you were 23 times more likely to book a hotel in the destination city advertised. So it really has an impact. There's a saying that says essentially that we retain 80% of what we see. We retain only 20% of what we read and 10% of what we hear. So perhaps I should repeat it again. We remember only 10% of what we hear, 20% of what we read, such as what you're seeing here, or 80% of what you see. So the videos with the music, the movement has a lot more impact. Great example of video marketing and a content marketing approach that should be mentioned is the one that's used by Westjet. You've all heard of, or you've seen the Miracle of Christmas video 2 years ago, which they call the real-time giving. Just after that video, which was a huge hit with over 41 million views, they saw traffic increase by 100%. They saw booking increases by 77% and revenue increases by 86%. So content marketing was a real winner for them, and since then they've obviously doubled down efforts on that side. It's difficult to keep it up because of the content shock issue we discussed a second ago, but we'll show you their most latest initiative, which was to promote their destination Vegas and trips there. So you'll see that they're going down the path of humor and emotion, so check it out. We're going to take a look at this one before we go on to trend number 5.
Is this flight 227 from Cleveland? No. Is it 1116 from Toronto? So we have 2 options today when you get off the plane, okay? Option 1, take the red carpet down to baggage claim. Option 2, follow the blue arrows and me. This is the best one. You're going to talk about this the rest of your lives. This is going to be the best Vegas upgrade experience of your life. I'll be going the blue way. If you want to go the red way, you're on your own. What do you say? You with me? Let's go! It's going to be fun!
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen! I am Terry Fader from the Mirage Hotel and Casino, and listen, you are in for a treat. Terry, where are we? We're in the Westjet hangar. These people just came in from Canada. Welcome to Vegas, everybody!
We got the ultimate upgrade.
It's turned a special trip into something out of this world.
We've been down here a couple times already, and this is by far the best.
This was totally an unexpected, excellent upgrade to our whole experience. It's definitely been something I'm going to remember for the rest of my life, so.
Of course, not everybody's got a budget like Westjet to do this kind of effort, but you're seeing that it brings down the whole the storytelling aspect and not just focusing on a call to action with a specific price, but using video and storytelling in a way to bring down the values of the company, and it helps to obviously bring some traffic to their website, which has been the case for them. Now, when we're talking about video marketing, it's interesting to see that there's a big battle between Facebook and YouTube. We often think that YouTube is the key player, which it still is, but Facebook is feverishly running behind and doing its thing to make sure that there's more videos uploaded on its platform. So you need to, if you have a video, of course you will put it on your YouTube channel, but you need to consider Facebook more and more, because just look at some of these stats here. It basically was non-existent as of first quarter of 2014, but ever since they introduced the autoplay feature, you're seeing that they're really focusing more and more on video, and you can see the curve, and this is as of Q1 2015. Really interested to see where they're going to be by Q4 of this year and maybe Q1 of 2016. Now, one caveat here is that a view on Facebook is after 3 seconds, while a view on YouTube is 30 seconds. But nevertheless, it's said that about 58% of videos are watched to completion on Facebook. So with the efforts that are being put on advertising, among other things, definitely you might want to look into at least both platforms for your video efforts. One last promotional aspect I wanted to discuss before we go into the trend number 5. If you're interested in learning more social media best practices in the travel world, I did publish this book earlier this year in May 2015. It's either available as an ebook or as a paperback version. Over 140 pages worth of chock full of information of do's and don'ts with every social media platform here in Canada, the US, and worldwide. So they're different examples. So a great tool to discover. Check it out on frederickgonzalo.com. Last trend I want to discuss is remarketing. Now, you know, all the efforts we do to get people to our website. We do AdWords campaigns, we send out newsletters, we work on our SEO and making sure we have great visuals and so on and so forth. Yet 92% of people that go to a website never return. Isn't that dramatic? And look at these stats here. Even if someone goes to your website, you probably have something you want them to do, whether it's download a brochure, reserve online, call you, or maybe fill in a form or subscribe to your newsletter. 96% of people who will visit a website will leave without completing whatever it is the action you wanted them to take. So again, that's dramatic. And even if you are able to get them down to go into the shopping cart to start the process, 70% of people just do not complete their purchase. Now, sure, there are some people, when you dig into to find what are the reasons, some people just get interrupted because they're at the office and something came up. But a lot of times it's simply because it was too cumbersome, or they didn't feel confident, the privacy issues or the security with credit cards, or they weren't finding the rates or for the specific dates. So a lot of reasons, but nevertheless, how do we get people to close in on the sale or close in on whatever it is the action you want them to take? And this is where marketing comes into play. Essentially, remarketing is whenever a visitor comes to your website, he leaves, and then you push an ad to Facebook or a banner on the web or anywhere else on the web to bring them back to your site. So let's say someone is checking out your hotel website and they're looking at a spa or romance package, right? But for whatever reason, it was lunchtime, they're at the office, and they moved on to something else. Well, you would want for that person to, later in that evening on their Facebook page, that there's an ad that brings them back to that page where they were, right? Or the following day where they're reading cbc.ca or some other outlet, that again, there's an ad to bring them back to your hotel site, to that page, so that they come back and complete and purchase that package. So that is what remarketing is. Now, that has been going on for years. This is nothing new for this year, but why am I putting it as a trend? Simply because it's a lot more democratized. It's a lot easier access than it used to be. It used to be you could have it done through an agency, or using Google DoubleClick, for example. But now with AdWords, it's super easy. And with Facebook, you can do it as well. So you don't need to be a geek or someone that's got a lot of savviness in terms of using marketing or advertising on the web or on social media. It's stuff that can be done fairly simply by following the steps that are explained on Facebook, where essentially you need to put a code or a pixel on the specific page, and that cookie will follow the people 7 or 30 days, whatever the criteria you decide, and then you push an ad to them. So if I was on TripAdvisor today and I was looking at a hotel, or I was looking at something to do in Quebec City, but I didn't close in on my sale, well, what do you know? I'm on my Facebook page later that evening and I see this ad that says, hey, what is the #1 hotel in Quebec City? Find out now on TripAdvisor. So that's a classic example of remarketing. And I'm sure you've seen this, not just in the travel world. A lot of companies are doing that in various industries. So it's just becoming a lot easier to use now. So I think this will be certainly a trend to follow in 2016. That pretty much boils down to the trends I wanted to see with you. If you have any questions or comments about what you saw, of course, I'd be interested to hear back from you. You can send a little email to me at info@gonzomarketing.biz. You have my website details there, frederickgonzalo.com, or you can give me a shout. There's my phone number, 581-981-2666, if you're wondering where 581 is the area code for the greater Quebec City area where I reside. So hope you enjoyed this webinar. I look forward to hearing back from you, and check me out on my website, frederickgonzalo.com. Have a nice day, evening, whatever time it might be. Cheers.